If you've ever sat at your desk wondering if your job could vanish with a single email, you're not alone. Maybe you've noticed the tension in your workplace, the quiet exits, or the growing feeling that no matter how hard you work, it's never quite enough. It's not just in your head, more and more people are feeling it. That gut-level anxiety, the sense that you're just another line item waiting to be cut. 40% of employees say they feel disposable at their jobs, believing they could be replaced at any moment. 70% of workers don't trust their employer to act in their best interest. Additionally, nearly 70% of Gen Z and millennials plan to leave their current job within the next 2 years.
Turn now to news overnight about more layoffs at Amazon, 18,000 jobs.
Google parent company Alphabet is the latest tech giant to trim thousands of jobs.
10,000 jobs being cut by Microsoft, or roughly 5% of the company's workforce.
Picture this. A company shatters expectations, raking in record profits. Stock prices shoot through the roof, executives toast their success, and Wall Street hums with excitement. But down the hall, away from the champagne and celebration, entire teams are handed their walking papers. The ink on the profit reports isn't even dry before the layoff emails start rolling in. Time was, getting fired meant a company was in trouble, a desperate attempt to keep a sinking ship from going under. But now, layoffs have become a corporate ritual, almost as predictable as the quarterly earnings call. The ship isn't sinking. In fact, it's sailing smoothly. But instead of rewarding the crew, the captain is throwing people overboard just to lighten the load. So what's really going on? A growing number of workers are waking up to an unsettling reality. They're no longer seen as assets, but as liabilities, numbers on a spreadsheet, expenses to be slashed. Today's corporate leaders worship at the altar of efficiency, cutting costs with surgical precision, even if it means axing employees who, just yesterday, were the backbone of the company. And make no mistake, this isn't just happening to so-called underperformers. It's happening to seasoned veterans, industry experts, and entire departments that once made companies great. The message is clear. Past loyalty holds no currency in the present. If you're not feeding the bottom line this quarter, you're as good as gone. Some call this the rise of the zombie employee, workers who were once vital but are now lingering in roles that could vanish at any moment. They still shuffle through meetings, still log in each morning, but in the eyes of the company, they're already ghosts. And the biggest targets? Middle managers, long-tenured employees, and anyone whose work doesn't directly pump up profits. But how did we get here? In this video, we're peeling back the layers of this corporate paradox, diving into the forces that turn stable jobs into ticking time bombs. First, we'll explore the death of the middle manager, why companies are wiping out these roles, how AI and automation are replacing human decision-making, and why corporate hierarchies are collapsing faster than a house of cards. Next, we'll unravel the end of loyalty and long-term employees, how pensions, career tracks, and job security became relics of the past, forcing workers into a game of musical chairs where the music never stops and the seats keep disappearing. Finally, we'll ask the big question: is the idea of a stable, lifelong career officially dead? And if so, what comes next? Is this a moment of crisis or an opportunity for workers to reclaim power in a system that no longer values them? One thing is certain: the rules of the workplace have changed. The question is, are you ready to play the new game? Let's find out. For decades, middle managers were the heartbeat of corporate America, the steady pulse that kept everything running smoothly. They translated executive visions into daily tasks, kept teams in sync, and made sure that when the CEO said jump, employees knew exactly how high. They were the glue holding companies together. But now, they're disappearing faster than free snacks in the office kitchen. Across industries, from tech to finance, healthcare to manufacturing, middle management is being carved away like excess fat. Amazon, Google, Meta, titans of industry, have led the charge, replacing managers with leaner structures and AI-driven decision-making tools. And they're not alone. More and more companies are deciding they don't need as many people in the middle, so they're cutting them loose. But why? What's behind this corporate purge of middle managers? In today's efficiency-obsessed corporate world, middle managers are starting to look like luxury items. Nice to have, but not exactly essential. To executives scanning the balance sheets, they're a cost center rather than a profit engine. Think about it. The average middle manager in the US earns around $100,000 a year. And that's before bonuses, benefits, and stock options. When a company needs to tighten its belt, the first thing on the chopping block isn't the high-powered execs. It's the managers caught in the corporate crossfire. For a CEO looking to impress investors, cutting a layer of management means instant savings, millions in some cases. And thanks to AI and automation, companies don't need as many hands to steer the ship. Instead, they're handing the wheel over to algorithms. Or worse, just dumping the work on fewer, already overburdened employees. On LinkedIn and Reddit, ex-managers tell the same cautionary tale. After years of loyalty, they were shown the door, their duties split between AI and junior employees. One former retail manager put it bluntly, "They told me my job was redundant. In reality, they just divided my workload among 3 underpaid workers and a scheduling algorithm." The message is clear. If you don't directly impact the bottom line, you might be next. If middle management was once the captain of the ship, AI is the new autopilot. And in the eyes of executives, it's cheaper, faster, and never calls in sick. AI-driven tools like Salesforce, Monday.com, and Microsoft Copilot are handling everything from scheduling and project management to performance tracking and even firings. Just look at Uber. Their entire workforce, millions of drivers worldwide, is managed by algorithms. Ride assignments, performance reviews, even terminations, all done without a human in sight. And it's not just gig work. In office jobs, AI-powered chatbots handle HR concerns. Project management software assigns tasks, and automated performance tracking decides who gets a raise and who gets the boot. For companies, this is the dream, a world where machines take on the bureaucratic heavy lifting, leaving humans to focus on high-value work. For workers, it's a nightmare. The role of the middle manager wasn't just about pushing paperwork, it was about mentorship, problem solving, and guiding teams through chaos. Try telling an AI bot that your workload is unmanageable, or that a teammate is struggling. See if it cares. Then there's the latest corporate obsession: flatter, more agile organizational structures. Instead of layered hierarchies where information flows down like a waterfall, companies now want decentralized teams that work directly with leadership. On paper, this sounds great. Fewer bottlenecks, faster decisions, and more innovation. But in reality, it can feel like cutting the brakes on a speeding car. Elon Musk is one of the biggest champions of this approach. When he took over Twitter, now X, he gutted middle management, believing too many decision makers slowed things down. Other Silicon Valley companies are following suit, betting that leaner structures mean greater efficiency. But does it actually work? For startups and tech firms? Maybe. But for larger organizations, slashing middle management can lead to absolute chaos. Without clear leadership, employees are left wandering in the dark, struggling with unclear expectations, shifting priorities, and workloads that grow heavier by the day. A study from MIT Sloan found that companies that aggressively cut middle management see short-term savings, but long-term productivity drops like a rock. Employees initially scramble to keep up, but burnout sets in, morale plummets, and turnover skyrockets. Because without managers to guide them, employees aren't just working harder, they're working lost. To compensate for the loss of middle management, companies are rolling out a new buzzword: the player-coach role. Translation: do your old job and a manager's job at the same time. A software engineer, for example, might now be expected to code full-time while also mentoring junior developers, managing projects, and reporting to executives. On paper, it sounds like a logical fix. In practice, it's a recipe for exhaustion. One ex-Google employee put it best: "They eliminated my boss's position, then handed me his responsibilities without a raise. I wasn't promoted, I was just doing 2 jobs for the price of 1. And that's the real trick. Instead of hiring more managers, companies are piling responsibilities onto existing employees without offering additional pay or support. It's cost-cutting in disguise, and it's leaving workers burned out, frustrated, and searching for the nearest exit. If this trend continues, companies may soon find themselves in a leadership crisis. Middle managers weren't just paper pushers, they were mentors, culture builders, and the next generation of executives. Without them, there's a growing gap between entry-level employees and upper management. The result? A growing void in leadership, as the pipeline of future executives dries up without middle managers to mentor and guide the next generation. With no one to bridge the gap between frontline employees and upper management, mentorship and professional development begin to wither, leaving workers adrift in their careers. As clarity and support fade, employees feel increasingly disconnected from leadership. struggling to navigate shifting priorities and unclear expectations, all while grappling with a creeping sense of uncertainty about their place in the company's future. A recent Gallup study found that companies that cut middle management saw a significant drop in employee engagement. Workers felt lost, unheard, and unsupported, leading to higher turnover, lower productivity, and worsening company culture. Because at the end of the day, AI can analyze data, but it can't inspire people. Flat hierarchies sound great until no one knows who to turn to for help. Despite all the warning signs, the death of middle management seems inevitable. Companies are prioritizing short-term profits over long-term stability, and AI tools are becoming too powerful and too cheap to ignore. For workers, the message is clear. Job security is fading, and career paths are less predictable than ever. So, if middle management is disappearing, what comes next? In the next section, we'll explore how companies are abandoning loyalty and long-term employees altogether, and why workers are adapting by becoming job hoppers. Because in a world where no job is safe, the smartest move might just be learning how to leave first. There was a time when a job wasn't just a paycheck, it was a promise. Work hard, stay loyal, and in return, you'd get stability, steady raises, and a pension to carry you into a comfortable retirement. Companies prided themselves on longevity, treating seasoned employees like pillars of an empire. But that empire has crumbled, and in its place stands a new reality. Loyalty is no longer a virtue, it's a liability. The modern workplace is a game of musical chairs, and the music never stops for long. Stay put too long, and you might find yourself the odd one out. Salaries stagnate, while fresh hires waltz in, earning more than the veterans who trained them. Pensions have become relics of a bygone era, and rather than being rewarded for years of service, long-term employees are increasingly viewed as costly burdens, too expensive to keep, too experienced to mold, and too set in their ways to fit into the ever-shifting corporate puzzle. Once upon a time, experience was king. Having 2 decades at a company meant security, influence, and an invaluable depth of knowledge. Now, experience is a red flag to employers looking to trim budgets. A seasoned professional may demand a 6-figure salary and expect robust benefits, while a fresh-faced newcomer can be hired for half the cost, eager, adaptable, and blissfully unaware of how much they should be making. The tech industry is a prime example. Senior engineers with a decade of experience are getting pink slips while companies aggressively recruit junior developers. The math is simple. Why pay one veteran $180,000 a year when you can get 2 juniors for less? As one laid-off employee vented online, they told me it was a budget cut. Then I found out they hired 2 new grads to replace me, both making less individually, but more combined than I ever did. It wasn't about cost. It was about resetting the salary scale. But this isn't just about wages. It's about shifting incentives. Back in the day, companies needed workers to stick around, so they dangled golden handcuffs, pensions. These long-term retirement plans ensured employees had a vested interest in staying put, and in return, companies had a stable, experienced workforce. But pensions have all but disappeared, replaced by 401k plans that put the burden on employees. Now, when a worker leaves, their retirement savings leave with them, and the company owes them nothing. And so, the grand illusion of the corporate family fades. For decades, companies painted themselves as tight-knit clans, insisting employees were more than just workers. They were part of something bigger. But when push came to shove, that family resemblance vanished. The pandemic laid bare the truth. Loyalty is a one-way street. Companies that once preached commitment turned around and laid off workers en masse, sometimes over email, sometimes via automated messages, and often while raking in record profits. One HR professional summed it up bluntly. I believed in the company family idea until I had to fire hundreds of people with no warning, no severance, and no explanation. That's when I realized, to them, we were just numbers on a spreadsheet. With the illusion shattered, employees have adapted. If companies won't be loyal to workers, why should workers be loyal to companies? The rise of job hopping isn't just a trend, it's a survival strategy. Studies show that workers who switch jobs every 2 to 3 years earn significantly more over their careers than those who stay put. A recent ADP report found that job switchers saw average pay increases of 8.4%, while those who stayed saw just 5.9%. It's no wonder younger generations have embraced the philosophy of perpetual motion. As one viral TikTok user put it, I'm not staying anywhere longer than 3 years. The second they stop paying me what I'm worth, I'm out. And why wouldn't they be? The old corporate ladder has been replaced with a revolving door. Raises are rare, promotions are slow, and the only way to get ahead is to leave and negotiate your worth somewhere else. The days of being rewarded for dedication are over. Now it's the job hoppers who get the bigger paychecks, the better titles, and the upper hand in negotiations. But this shift comes at a cost. Constant job hopping means workers are in a perpetual state of transition, always networking, always hunting, always adjusting. While it can lead to higher salaries, it also brings stress, uncertainty, and the exhaustion of never feeling truly settled. Employers, too, are feeling the strain. High turnover means constant hiring and training, draining resources and reducing institutional knowledge. Some companies are now scrambling to retain top talent, realizing too late that a workforce in flux is a workforce in turmoil. And the ripple effects don't stop there. The erosion of job stability is reshaping the economy. When workers can't rely on steady incomes, they delay buying homes, starting families, and saving for retirement. A 2023 Pew Research study found that 64% of workers under 40 believe long-term career stability is a pipe dream. Instead, they focus on short-term gains, learning new skills, and staying nimble in case they need to pivot to an entirely different field. This raises a looming question. Are we heading toward a future where the traditional job is extinct? Some experts believe we're barreling toward a gig economy, one where workers function as independent contractors rather than full-time employees. Already, companies are shifting toward short-term hires, freelance contracts, and project-based work. Platforms like Upwork and Fiverr have made it easier than ever to hire talent on demand without the messy entanglements of salaries, benefits, or long-term commitments. For workers, this new frontier offers both freedom and fragility. The ability to work on your own terms, pick your own projects, and escape the monotony of the 9-to-5 grind is appealing. But it also comes with uncertainty, no benefits, no job security, and the constant pressure to stay competitive in an ever-changing market. So where does that leave us? Workers are adapting, turning to side hustles, freelance gigs, and entrepreneurial ventures to safeguard their financial futures. The old model of climbing the corporate ladder has been replaced by a new paradigm, one where career paths are fluid, unpredictable, and self-directed. The rules of employment have changed. Loyalty is dead, replaced by a mercenary mindset where employees treat their careers like businesses, always looking for the best deal, the next opportunity, and the most lucrative exit strategy. But as the dust settles, we're left with a sobering thought. If everyone is looking out for themselves, what happens to the idea of stability, community, and shared purpose in the workplace? Perhaps that's the real paradox of the modern job market. In the pursuit of freedom, we may have lost something far greater, the sense that work could ever be more than just a transaction. Long ago, when things were different, a job wasn't just a paycheck, it was a lifelong pact. A worker would give their time, effort, and loyalty, and in return, the company would offer stability, promotions, and a golden handshake at retirement. That handshake, however, has turned into a cold shoulder. The corporate ladder hasn't just collapsed, it's been replaced by an escalator that only moves sideways, or worse, a trapdoor that drops employees the moment they become too expensive to keep. The modern workplace has undergone a seismic shift, and loyalty has become an outdated currency. In this new era, companies treat workers like rented furniture, useful for a time, but easily replaced when a newer, cheaper model comes along. Middle management, once the backbone of mentorship and institutional wisdom, is fading into obscurity, replaced by AI-driven oversight and decentralized decision-making. Meanwhile, employees have adapted, morphing from dedicated lifers into mercenaries of the job market, forever scanning the horizon for the next, better opportunity. So, what does this mean for the future of work? It means that job security is now an illusion, a mirage in the corporate desert. Employees are expected to be in a perpetual state of career survival mode, always networking, always upskilling, always ready to jump ship before the tide turns against them. The worker of today must be both the captain and the lifeboat, steering their own career while ensuring they don't go down with a sinking company. This shift has given birth to what some call the always-on worker, a person who can never truly exhale because they know that a single restructuring, an economic downturn, or an AI algorithm could render them obsolete overnight. Adaptability is now the golden ticket, but the price of admission is steep. Burnout, stress, and the gnawing uncertainty of never knowing what the next 5 years will bring. For decades, the career trajectory was a straight road. Start at the bottom, climb the ranks, retire with a pension. Now, it's a labyrinth with no clear exit. One job leads to another, then another, each move dictated by opportunity, layoffs, or sheer necessity. Workers no longer climb a corporate ladder. They swing from vine to vine, hoping the next one doesn't snap under their grip. For many, this unpredictability is maddening, but for others, it's liberating. Those who embrace job hopping and strategic skill building can often outmaneuver their more traditional counterparts. Some have turned to freelancing or entrepreneurship, building their own safety nets outside the crumbling framework of corporate promises. Ironically, while companies benefit in the short term from cutting costs and streamlining their workforce, they may be sowing the seeds of their own downfall. High turnover means a never-ending cycle of recruitment and training, draining productivity and eroding company culture. Without seasoned middle managers to guide the ship, businesses risk steering themselves into chaos. And as workers become less invested in their employer's long-term success, overall innovation and efficiency may suffer. Many companies are already feeling these tremors. Retaining top talent has become a game of cat and mouse, with employees fleeing at the first sign of stagnation. Institutional knowledge is being lost faster than it can be replenished, and businesses that once prided themselves on loyalty are now struggling to keep their best people from walking out the door. In this new reality, workers must take charge of their own careers. The rules of engagement have changed, and those who adapt will thrive. Job hopping isn't just an option, it's a strategy. Negotiation isn't just a skill, it's a survival tool. Continuous learning isn't just encouraged, it's essential. Workers who refuse to evolve risk being left behind, replaced not just by younger, cheaper hires, but by code, algorithms, and automation. Yet, as employees become more independent, companies face an existential dilemma. They have traded loyalty for efficiency, but at what cost? A workforce that is always looking for the next best thing is a workforce that never fully invests in the present. If businesses want to survive this paradigm shift, they must find new ways to foster engagement, reward experience, and retain their best talent before they vanish into the ether of a more enticing offer. The balance of power between employers and employees is shifting. The old rules are dead, and the new ones are still being written. The question is, who will come out ahead? The companies that continue to see employees as disposable, or the workers who recognize the game and learn to play it better? One thing is certain, the future of work belongs to those who refuse to be caught off guard. In this high-stakes, ever-changing job market, complacency is the real career killer. So ask yourself, are you ready for what comes next?